morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Let us begin with the headlines. Death toll in Afghanistan earthquake crosses 260, at least 214 killed in Pakistan alone. Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls up Nawaz Sharif, offers all possible assistance. Foreign ministers to meet on day 2 of the India-Africa Forum Summit in Delhi. Representatives of 54 African nations participating in the 4-day summit. Underworld Don Chota Rajan arrested in Bali after being on the run for years. Likely to be deported to India after Australian police's tip-off helps to nab him. And deaf and mute girl Geeta meets Prime Minister Modi after returning to India from Pakistan. However, she fails to identify couple who claim to be her parents. A DNA test will now help solve the puzzle. Well, news from the 3rd India-Africa Forum Summit being held in Delhi. Well, on day 2 today, the meeting of the foreign ministers will take place. The main summit will be held on 29th of October. Representatives of 54 African nations, including heads of state and government of around 40 countries and powerful African Union, are participating in the 4-day summit, which is seen as an effort by India to consolidate its historical ties with the continent. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also hold one-on-one talks with the leaders of the African continent between 28th to 30th of October. Well, it is the biggest summit that Delhi will be hosting since the NAM summit of 1984. 2 previous India-Africa summits held in 2008 and 2011 in New Delhi and Addis Ababa, but with only representative participation from African countries. India is a major investor in Africa, and Indian investments close to $30 billion have contributed to job creation in that continent. Well, the first day of the summit saw senior officials meeting their counterparts from 54 countries to work out the modalities. Now, Africa has a special significance for India as the world's second largest continent after Asia. It is not only home to 1 billion people, but also has abundant natural resources. Let's take a look.
For the next 4 days, the Indira Gandhi Stadium complex in New Delhi will be hosting the biggest ever Indo-Africa summit. It assumes significance considering the historic linkages between the two sides. Day 1 is being devoted to interactions between various foreign secretaries, deliberating the impediments to the India-Africa cooperation.
They are going to negotiate 2 documents. One is going to be a political document, which will basically talk about the political partnership between India and Africa, and it will also touch upon global and regional issues. And the other is going to be a framework document of cooperation. That, to my mind, I think will recall the developmental partnership between India and Africa, the lines of credit, what are African needs, where we can contribute.
India is a major investor in Africa, and Indian investments close to $30 billion have contributed immensely to job creation in the continent. But India still finds itself falling behind China, owing to several shortcomings in implementation of projects. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be holding several one-on-one meetings with heads of states, seeking to challenge China's dominance and boosting trade ties.
We must strengthen our relationship strongly with Africa. I don't think we should see it as a competition with China, as some people unwisely are projecting it. It is not. But on the other hand, I think the Africans appreciate what we have to offer.
The industry feels Prime Minister Modi has brought in dynamism in India's foreign policy. But shortcomings in follow-up indicates the bureaucracy needs to step up in implementation.
Implementations of the lines of credit projects, there was a lot of delay. But with the creation of the DPA, that is Development Partnership Administration within the MEA, the LOC implementation has improved. Yes, if the Prime Minister has lots of ideas, the bureaucracy has to catch up and increase their speed in the implementation.
India and Africa have huge overlaps, both in terms of resources and needs. They share a colonial past, cultural linkages, and the vision for a prosperous future, all of which could make them natural friends and partners. With Bureau Inputs, Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, my colleague Akhilesh Suman is tracking all those developments very, very closely. Let's go across to him. Akhilesh, now today the foreign ministers of India and the African countries are meeting. What can we expect in the day today?
Actually, Swarya, what has happened yesterday, you have heard that political and development partnership document has been finalized yesterday, and this will come up for the foreign ministers meeting. So other than finalizing those documents, there will be foreign ministers of different countries whose head of states are not coming. So they will also make their deliberations in the beginning, and after that, foreign minister will go with the documents. This meeting is also going to clarify and also going to decide that what will be the declaration after the summit is over on 29th. So I think it is one of the precursors of the summit, main summit that is going to be held on 29th, when the 54 countries and Prime Minister Narendra Modi and one representative from African Union will speak. And then they will decide on the questions of Security Council, on the question of terrorism, on the question of climate change, and also on the question of how India will cooperate with African nations in terms of investment, in terms of development partnership, and then also in terms of skill training and other human resource development. Aishwarya.
Akhilesh, we also understand that External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj is also going to meet and she is also going to rather hold bilateral meetings today with several of her African counterparts. Tell us more about that.
Actually, this is one of the major occasions when Ministry of External Affairs tries to correlate themselves with the African nations. And you know that this is the 70th year of UN, and India has put forward the question of UN Security Council reform. So this is one of the major political initiatives that India has taken. And you can understand the bloc of 54 nations that Africa makes, they are going to have a very effective voice in the United Nations. And this is the occasion when India is trying to create some sort of unanimity on the question of Security Council reforms. So, there is a difference in African Union because African Union wants to nominate its own candidate for the Security Council. Unlike other Asian nations or European nations, there is no Asian or no European conglomeration that is going to decide about who will be the next UN Security Council permanent member. But African Union is going to decide that who will be the nomination, who will be the country who will be nominated as a permanent member. So on this, India and Africa has to cooperate, that even if Africa decide about whom, but the question of dynamics of United Nations security reform has to go on, and also the question of terrorism, the definition of terrorism, the stake and sponsoring of the terrorism, India and Africa has to create some sort of unanimity, because there have been differences between India and African countries on this question also. That's right.
All right, Akhilesh, you keep tracking all those developments. Will keep coming back to you. So terrorism and UNSC reforms are going to be on the agenda of Prime Minister Narendra Modi when he is going to engage with the African leaders in a few days from now. And the death toll in the Afghanistan earthquake has crossed 260. At least 214 were killed in Pakistan alone. Well, the numbers are expected to rise as the severely affected areas are very remote and the communications have been cut off. Remember, 7.5 magnitude earthquake hit northeastern Afghanistan on Monday, sending shock waves in several countries like Pakistan, India and Tajikistan. Relief and rescue operations are on full swing. All right, so these are the visuals that we are getting from Afghanistan. Remember, 7.5 magnitude earthquake struck northeastern Afghanistan on Monday, which also rattled people in Pakistan, India and Tajikistan, killing dozens of people. All right, let's go across to Dr. Hidayat, who's a senior journalist with the South Asian Free Media Association. He joins us from Kabul. Good morning, sir, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. Sir, I would like to know from you, what are the rescue efforts that are on at the moment? We understand that teams have been sent to remote mountainous areas where the effects of earthquake are still unclear at the moment.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Yesterday, the powerful earthquake struck in northern eastern Afghanistan, Badakhshan, Jerem, Kunar Nangarhar, and Kabul area. The panic of itself was deadly. It is in the Takhar province. One school damaged in this earthquake. 12 girls were died, and more 30 girls injured in this earthquake. The age of this school girls about 10 to 15 years. About yesterday, earthquake officially report said that the scale Richter about 7.5 in Jerem, Badakhshan recorded. The area of affected most is rural and populated areas. You better know in Afghanistan many people are living especially in rural areas and mud brick buildings. Shaken was earthquake violently. The Ministry of Disaster and Management says there in primary reports the around 4,000 houses was damaged and destroyed.
Also, sir,
Yesterday after the
yeah, please continue.
after year, yes, I am hearing you.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Please continue. Please continue.
Yeah. Yesterday after the earthquake, cell phone remained down for 1 hour, and Dr. Ashraf Ghani, President of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, is saddened because of the casualty and losses of the earthquake, and expresses his sympathies to condolences and family of victims. He assigned an assessment committee to provide emergency assistance for victims. Also, President has directed to the Minister of Public Health to take immediate action and provide the treatment for the injured.
Dr. Hidayat, how the hospitals coping up with the huge influx, obviously, of the people who are injured? How are the hospitals really coping up, and how is the administration ensuring that these people who are injured are getting proper treatment?
Yeah, in some areas like Nangarhar, they shift some injured to Pakistan near Peshawar, some hospital, and
All right. Well, we seem to have lost contact with Dr. Hidayat. That is one story that we'll keep tracking through the day. Remember, the death toll in the earthquake has crossed 260. At least 214 were killed in Pakistan alone. Relief and rescue operations are on. Let's take a look.
Relief and rescue workers combed through the rubble searching for survivors. The death toll could climb up as communication has been largely cut off in most of the remote areas of Hindu Kush mountain range. The mountainous terrain and poor infrastructure is making it hard for the rescue team to find survivors. The quake was centered in the Hindu Kush region, 75 kilometers off Faizabad. It occurred at a depth of over 200 kilometers. There is comparatively less damage in Afghan capital Kabul. Panicked people rushed into the streets as the quake struck. Officials said that the Taliban threat is also making the relief work difficult. The panic in itself was deadly. In a tragic aftermath, at least 12 schoolgirls were killed in a stampede as they tried to get out of their school in the northeastern Afghan province of Thakar. A television presenter was forced to leave his desk during live broadcasting as the quake hit Kabul.
با کاراش کرده بودیم بر ما زنگ دادن که بیاین تا خرابی در زلزله شده این زلزله شد چون زلزله اونقدر قوی تر بود که مسطر خودتون میبینین که بیخی کلش در زمین زد.
In Pakistan, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has ordered 2,000 tents to be distributed to the affected areas. Military helicopters have also been deployed to transfer injured people for treatment. Tremors were felt in all major cities including Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, Rawalpindi, Peshawar, Quetta, Kohat and Malakand.
जिस वक्त भी हो तो इमरजेंसी डिक्लेयर होती है अल्लाह के फजल से हमारे लारिज के एक्सीडेंट इमरजेंसी में सारी फैसिलिटीज़ हैं जो होनी चाहिए
सबसे ज़्यादा अभी तक जो जानी नुकसान की इत्तला है वो चित्राल से मौसूल हुई है इन इलाकों का फ़ज़ाई सर्वे करने के लिए हेलीकॉप्टर और C-130 तैयारे भेजे गए हैं
पेशावर सिटी में जो है रेस्क्यू के हवाले से आपको बताना चलूँ कि शायद वो अमल जो है वो तो मुकम्मल हो चुका है, लेकिन इसके साथ साथ जितने भी जो पहाड़ी इलाके हैं वहाँ पे रेस्क्यू का अमल भी जारी है और वहीं से जो है वो तमाम जख्मी हजरात को वो यहाँ पेशावर LRH।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to Afghan President Ashraf Ghani and Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, assuring them of all possible help in the wake of the earthquake. The United States also offered support for the quake-hit countries.
The U.S. government has been in touch with the governments in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and we stand ready to provide any additional support that may be needed.
Tremors were felt in India across several states, including Jammu and Kashmir, Delhi, the National Capital Region, Punjab, Uttarakhand, and Rajasthan. The 500-year-old Bhimgarh fort in Jammu and Kashmir suffered heavy damages. One of the fort walls collapsed due to the tremors, while cracks developed in various other parts. Tremors were also felt strongly in parts of northwest China. However, no casualties have been reported. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And Breakfast News will take a very short break. We'll be back with more news. Do stay with us.
Political slugfest intensifies in Bihar. Regional leaders fight a do-or-die battle. Who wins Bihar and who loses relevance? Watch Verdict 2015 on Rajya Sabha television.
A fugitive underworld Don Chota Rajan had been arrested in Indonesia. He was nabbed by police in Bali after he arrived from Australia. Now, Chota Rajan had been evading arrest for over 2 decades. He is now likely to be deported to India to face trial in a series of murder cases.
On Sunday, Indonesian authorities detained underworld Don Chota Rajan, wanted in India for over 15 murder cases. He was arrested as soon as he got off a flight from Australia after the cops down under tipped off the police in Bali. Later, the centre confirmed that the man in detention is indeed the fugitive underworld Don who's been giving the Indian police a slip for the past 2 decades.
जानकारी जो प्राप्त हुई है कि बाली में इंडोनेशिया में छोटे राजन की गिरफ्तारी हुई है। मैं समझता हूं कि अब उसके बारे में पूरी तरह से आइडेंटिफिकेशन और वेरिफिकेशन जब हो जाएगा तो उसके बाद जो भी आवश्यक कार्रवाई होगी वह आवश्यक कार्रवाई भारत सरकार करेगी।
CBI had been in touch with the Australian authorities regarding the fugitive Chota Rajan, and yesterday at our request, Bali police has arrested one Mohan Kumar. We are ascertaining and verifying the details. Further action will be taken as required under the law.
This is an issue which the governments of India, Indonesia and Australia have been in touch with in the past. An issue which was handled through Interpol, and there are no further details which are required at the moment because action has been taken as was anticipated so far. If there's a requirement, then of course the government will take it up further.
Last month, Australia had confirmed that Rajan was living in Australia under a different identity. The Interpol had even flagged him as a wanted man back in 1995. The Bali Police Authority said that he is likely to be deported to India.
ये एक तरह की उपलब्धि होती है जब हम किसी फ्यूजिटिव को पा लेते हैं। इससे पहले कुछ वर्ष पहले हम अबू सालिम को पुर्तगाल से लाने में सफल हुए, तो मुझे लगता है ये एक अच्छी बात है कि इंसाफ किया जाए और पेंडिंग केस उसका कोई निवाड़ा निकले।
Rajan is a former key aide of another fugitive underworld Don Dawood Ibrahim. He later fell out with Dawood after the 1993 Mumbai blast. Starting off as a petty thief and bootlegger, Rajan is also wanted for many criminal cases, including extortion, smuggling, drug trafficking and film finance. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And 23-year-old deaf and mute girl Geeta returned to India after spending 15 years in Pakistan. Geeta had accidentally crossed over into the neighbouring country as an 8-year-old. However, she failed to identify the couple who claimed to be her parents. A DNA test will now help solve the puzzle. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who also has called up his Pakistani counterpart following the earthquake, thanked Sharif for the care that Pakistan extended to Geeta.
Geeta, the deaf and mute girl, finally returned home to India on Monday, after having spent 15 years in neighbouring Pakistan. Moved by the kindness and compassion displayed by the Eidi family, Prime Minister Narendra Modi thanked the foundation for looking after her. Geeta met Prime Minister Modi at his residence at 7 RCR on Monday evening. The Prime Minister announced 1 crore rupees for the foundation as a token of appreciation. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj thanked the Pakistan government and the Eidi Foundation with whom Geeta stayed all these years. Sushma also said that as Geeta had failed to recognize the couple who claimed to be her parents, the government will continue the search for her parents.
अभी गीता उन्हें पहचानने से इनकार कर रही है। वो कह रही है कि ये मेरे माता पिता नहीं हैं, लेकिन चूंकि डीएनए टेस्ट के लिए उनका रक्त भी जा चुका है और इसका भी जा चुका है, तो डीएनए टेस्ट का हम अभी इंतज़ार करेंगे। हमने तय किया है कि अभी हम गीता को मोनिका के साथ इंदौर की संस्था में भेजेंगे।
Geeta herself seemed happy to be home after all these years.
मैं कैसे बोलूँ, मुझे घबराहट हो रही है, पर मैं बहुत खुश हूँ यहाँ आकर। पाकिस्तान में थोड़ी उदास रहती थी, पर यहाँ आके बहुत खुश हूँ।
Bilkis Bano of the Eidi Foundation described the events leading to Geeta's return, saying she was happy to have been able to help Geeta.
मैं कहती हूँ कि आज मेरे लिए ईद का दिन है, खुशी का भी दिन है, ईद का भी दिन है। हमें बहुत खुशी हुई है, हाँ, और दुख भी होगा थोड़ा, इसलिए कि ये अपने घर पे पहुँच गई है, तो इंशाअल्लाह किनारे भी लग जाएगी।
Sushma Swaraj also said that the government will now try to bring back all those prisoners lodged in Pakistani jails whose mental condition is not stable. Vishal Daya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, eating processed meat can raise the risk of colon, stomach and other cancers in humans. Well, this is the latest report coming from the WHO. A new study conducted by a group of 22 scientists of the France-based International Agency for Research on Cancer, which is a part of the WHO, evaluated more than 800 studies from several continents. Based on the results, the IARC classified processed meat as carcinogenic to humans. It also labelled red meat as probably carcinogenic to humans and said that eating red meats leads to pancreatic and prostate cancer, though it contains some important nutrients. The report also suggests that a 50-gram portion of processed meat daily increases the risk of colorectal cancer over a lifetime by about 18%. The WHO's findings can influence public health recommendations around the globe.
The IARC working group concluded that processed meat, that is the consumption of processed meat, is carcinogenic to humans, and that the consumption of red meat is probably carcinogenic to humans. These findings reinforce existing dietary guidelines from a number of health authorities, including the World Health Organization. That is, that people who eat meat should consider reducing their consumption to reduce their risk of several diseases, including cancer.
And all other international stories in World Wrap now. Amid an escalating migrant crisis, German Chancellor Angela Merkel is making all-out efforts to reassure local administration that the country can integrate many more refugees. She urged Germans to get to know the newcomers as much as possible. And now her comments come in the wake of recent demonstrations in eastern Germany as people try to block buses carrying migrants. Challenging China's territorial claims in the South China Sea, the US Navy has sent a guided missile destroyer within 12 nautical miles of artificial islands built by China. The US defense official said that the mission would be the beginning of a series of challenges in China's territorial claims in the South China Sea. Police chiefs across the United States have called for universal background checks for firearms purchases. The move comes as opinion polls consistently showed that most Americans support such restrictions. Now, acknowledging the power of the gun lobby and the reluctance of the US Congress to enact stricter gun laws, police chiefs reiterated that they were not anti-gun but wish to keep weapons out of the hands of the people with criminal backgrounds. British Airways franchise flight Comair plane suffered a landing gear collapse at Johannesburg airport on Monday. Emergency crews were soon called in for help. All 94 passengers and 6 crew members on board were disembarked safely. A flight BA623 was scheduled to fly from Port Elizabeth in Cape Town to Johannesburg. South African authorities are investigating what caused the incident. And on to sports now. Well, Deepika Kumari had to settle for a silver medal at the Archery World Cup final after going down to Korea's Choi Mi-soon in the final. Eyeing her first gold medal at the season-ending event, Deepika won her quarters and semi-finals easily, but she lost 2-6 against the reigning world number 1 and top-seeded Mi-soon. This was Deepika's 4th World Cup final silver after being runners-up in 2011, 2012 as well as 2013. India concluded their campaign with 2 silver medals, with Abhishek Verma grabbing the country's first ever medal in the compound section on Saturday.
Winning the silver medal for the 4th.
And all other sporting action now in Sports Beat. India held on to their second spot in the latest ICC ODI cricket rankings despite a home series loss to South Africa. The Proteas retained their third position but reduced India's advantage to 2 points. In the batsman table, Virat Kohli rose up to the second place behind South African captain AB de Villiers. MS Dhoni at the 6th and Shikhar Dhawan at the 7th spot are the other 2 Indians in the top 10. Pakistan overcame resistance from England's tailenders to win the second test by 178 runs. A batting collapse saw England slump to 193 for 7 after lunch. However, tailenders Adil Rashid, Stuart Broad and Mark Wood offered resistance as the tourists came within 6.3 overs of securing a draw. A victory puts Pakistan 1-0 up in the 3-game series and maintain their record of never having lost a series in their adopted home of the United Arab Emirates. Rafael Nadal came from a set down to beat Lucas Rosol to reach the second round of the Swiss indoors tournament in Basel on Monday. The world number 8 came within 2 points of defeat before sparking into life to win the match 1-6, 7-5, 7-6. The 14-time Grand Slam champion will play Bulgaria's Grigor Dimitriov or Ukraine's Stakovsky in the round 2. Germany's World Cup winning captain and former coach Franz Beckenbauer admitted that he made a mistake in the bidding process to host the 2006 World Cup. He, however, denied that votes were brought. Now, Beckenbauer was the head of the World Cup Organizing Committee, which allegedly made a payment to FIFA in return for a financial grant. Well, that's all in this edition of Breakfast News, but news and updates continue on your channel. Keep watching Rajya Sabha TV.